Hello and welcome to this episode of the Second to None podcast. My name is Nic Snowberger. I'm your worthy Grand Master of Ceremonies. I'm excited to talk to you guys here today. And I have two incredible brothers with me, very distinguished brothers with incredibly impressive careers, brother Jeff McKenzie and brother Hugh Roberts. I'll let those guys introduce themselves though. Let's go with you, Jeff.
Sure, thanks, Nick. Jeff McKenzie. Brothers, I was a 1997 initiated of the Xi Lambda chapter at University of Delaware, for the former worthy grand scribe of Kappa Sigma, and currently serve as an endowment fund trustee. And professionally, I am a vice president of communications for Prudential Financial. I lead the corporate communications practice for the global retirement businesses.
Excellent, excellent. Brother Roberts.
Yes, my name's Hugh Robert, and I'm a 1995 initiate of the Epsilon Mu chapter, and past worthy Grand Master. Currently serve as the endowment fund trustee and secretary. And professionally, I'm the managing partner of Sherwood and Robert, a law firm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and have clients in 23 different states.
And so real quick, what were you guys like when you were undergraduates? What are your degrees in?
So my degree was in communications with a concentration in public relations.
Okay.
And mine was in political philosophy, and instead of a minor, got a certificate of legal studies.
Interesting. And we'll tie that in later because on today's podcast, we're talking about career development. Again, my name's Nic Snowberger. I'm your worthy Grand Master of Ceremonies. I have the pleasure of being a McDonald's franchisee. I own and operate 16 McDonald's across Montana with a couple in Wyoming. Started off with just one restaurant in 2011, but have built up to where I'm at now. I have around 1,100 employees and have an incredible career. And I'm a College of Business student, so I graduated with a degree in finance and accounting, and had several courses when I was an undergraduate that taught me some basics like techniques of job interviewing, how to manage a personal budget, and that kind of tied into the accounting aspect of things. But for the most part, I remember, as an undergraduate, that they don't equip you a lot in the classroom with how to, forge into the workforce, depending on what your career field is in, and make a huge impact. How to have that edge that will set you apart from the other people that might be applying for the job that you're applying for, or competing for that promotion or that raise. And so we thought that, what a great idea for one of our episodes to discuss some of the finer aspects of those elements, how to set yourself apart in the workplace. I know that, as an employer of a pretty good workforce, I've had to become a very good judge of personality, a very good judge of character, a good judge of work ethic, and really not over any extended period of time, but you have to make those judgment calls pretty quick in an interview process, and you have to catch things and look for things and ask specific questions and leading questions. And as the applicant, most of them have no idea what I'm looking for. Most of them don't really understand what the right answer is. So we can cover some of that today, as well as even how to dress, tips that we can add for the first 30, 60, 90 days on the job, and other aspects of that. And I'm excited to talk about some of those things today. And before we get started, in earnest, do you guys have anything that you want to add in and kind of laying the groundwork for what we're going to be discussing?
No, I would say, maybe a common thread for all of the topics that you laid out there is, and I challenge all of our brothers as you're thinking about this, is be planful. Every single action you take, be planful. In the courses you take, while you're at school, to the internships, to the way you approach, your first job and your performance on the job, is don't take anything for granted and really think it all out.
And that strategic approach, I think, is incredibly important. I can relate to that. I apply that to a lot of the things I do in my day-to-day life. I've given a lot of brothers advice about being forward thinking and what you want to get out of the interactions that you have, and not just in your careers, in your families, and your interactions as a undergraduate or as a volunteer. If you're participating in any kind of activities out in your community, just to be aware of your surroundings and incredibly strategic with what you're trying to accomplish, because one of the most valuable things that I think that we start to look at a lot more as we get older is the currency of time. Mm-hmm. And so you get to a point where you want to make every interaction, every experience, every day count. You want to be moving the ball forward every day. What do you think, Brother Robert?
Yeah, so one of the things that a lot of people overlook is that your networking starts when you're an undergrad. It's your fellow students, it is your advisors and other people. I know both in undergrad as well as law school for myself, certain people would backstab, they would do things that were less than honorable to other fellow students, and oftentimes those are your referral sources. And from law school, your students that you're in college or in law school with may be the judges that you're appearing before. They're people that can refer clients to you, and so it's very important to be mindful of that starting now while you're in college or in graduate school, because that can make a huge difference later that you may not appreciate until it's too late.
No, exactly. And one thing I want to do real quick is, because I think that in general conversation, we can really talk about general topics that relate to what we're discussing here today. But I want to be more specific on this edition of our podcast. I want to get into some really detailed stuff. And so as we have this discussion, let's outline real quick, and I'll start. When we're giving our advice right now, what kind of applicant are we talking about? Because we are in 3 different career fields. So I'll just start in the McDonald's world. And I think of it more as like the restaurant industry, the retail industry, the customer service, the hospitality industry. I'm looking, and my advice is more directed towards, the brothers out there that are interested in getting into any kind of sales, any kind of hospitality industry, those that are looking forward to interacting with people, both on the team building side and interacting directly with customers, that forward-facing kind of an employee that would be hired in an organization like mine. So what about you, Brother McKenzie?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we look at applicants at Prudential, and this would be true across a lot of different disciplines, but particular communications, marketing type disciplines, we look for expertise in either of 2 categories. Either the industry that we work in, if you ever had any experience, so for Prudential, it would be in financial services. And then, so that would kind of be the industry related, and then the discipline. So, did you have an internship at a public relations firm? Did you work in your school, student paper in college? Things like that. And when we're evaluating candidates, and this is the resume side, before you even get in a room. So, what gets you to the interview is you have to stand out in one or the other. It doesn't always have to be both. If you do happen to be in both, you have a leg up, but one or the other. So as you're thinking about, coming out of undergraduate years, I encourage brothers to say, all right, what's a general area or business I'd think about, and then what's the discipline, and make sure you have some standout credentials in one or the other.
Yeah, perfect. And Brother Robert, what kind of applicant are you talking to right now?
Well, and like for us, we have really 3 different types of people we hire. We have the lawyers, we have the interns, and then the support staff. And really for us, I look for a couple of different qualities. Once they get through the door, like what Brother McKenzie was talking about, you got to have a good resume, which for us is involved more than just doing the academics. It's great that you have good grades, but we want to see that you're doing other things. But once you're in the door with the interview, the couple of things that we look for is the can-do attitude. Nobody's above any other job. If I need to make copies, I'll go make copies. If something needs to be taken down to the courthouse, I will go and do that if that needs to be done. Cleaning up a conference room. It's everybody pitches in. So I also see it kind of as hospitality like you were talking about, because we want the customer experience, the client experience to be a positive one that's responsive, and that takes everybody pitching in regardless of your title, regardless of what you do. And so, just the ability of the can-do, asking for work to do, not just waiting around for an assignment. And so I often ask the question, what motivates you to give it your all, to be dedicated and want to work? And listening to what they have to say, a very thoughtful response, you can really pick up a lot on how they're going to approach it, regardless of what position they're interviewing for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're alluding to really some individual candidates' ability to take that initiative,
Yep.
to keep themselves busy, to find a way to be productive. And you dove right into to where we wanted to start. So let's keep going with that. So the question right now, and I want to discuss this with you brothers, is if you have 3 applicants in front of you and they're all competing for the same job, they're all applying for the same position, what would set an individual applicant apart from the others? What would stand out more than anything? And feel free to give maybe your top 1 or 2 or even 3 things that would be, wow, like that impressed me. I love that.
Well, first of all, would be if they're a Kappa Sig. I mean, that to me gives a leg up. We've got 4 Kappa Sig lawyers at our firm, so that gives you a leg up. But beyond that, I think it is walking in with confidence, being prepared, being on time or early. The things that I want out of a good employee: not having earrings, not having just looking sloppy because the appearance and what we're selling to customers to sign up to pay big money to a law firm, and having that confidence that they can have in this personnel is important. So appearance is important, timeliness is important, and then also doing a little bit of your own homework to understand what our firm does. And with just a little bit of work, you can understand that, and so show that you're inquisitive and want to know. And so those are 3 things that stand out to me.
See, I love that answer because across our different disciplines, I actually have a different perspective, but I'm obviously hiring for a different job. And so this is what's going to be a really cool element about this podcast, is that we're adding so much context to the thought process that should be going on in these young brothers' minds as they go and they forge their way out into the workforce. For example, like for me, I'm less interested in appearance. Like I want somebody to be put together, but an earring, facial hair, tattoos, visible tattoos. I grew up in the McDonald's business, and when I was a young team member, those things were rules. Like no facial hair, no visible earrings, close cropped hair, and all those were important elements of an old school way of thinking. Nowadays, I really look at one thing more than anything, that's attitude. So if I'm interviewing somebody, especially in a McDonald's type environment, I'm looking for someone that just has like optimism pouring out of their ears, this extroverted, smiling, like can-do person. And I prefer somebody that's got a little bit of character to them. I have a gentleman that's a mid-manager in my business right now that has full sleeve of arm tattoos and a beard. And he's the president of my company. And what I love about it is he has the most incredible demeanor to him. And so when you walk into my restaurant, you see this guy standing by the counter, most people cast a little bit of a judgment. We all do. We all judge books by their cover, even though we preach against it. But then when you talk to him, he absolutely knocks you on your butt with his attitude, his hospitality, the way he caters to you, the way he makes you the priority inside of that, that interaction. And so it's actually a benefit when it's harnessed by someone with just an incredible attitude. And of course, you don't want someone that's unkept or looks like they don't, have a good hygiene routine, because we're in the food service industry. But it's just an interesting parallel, Brother McKenzie, what would you say?
I'll pick up on something Brother Robert said there around, and it comes back to my first comments around preparation. There's not that many things you can do in an interview. Most interviews are, if you're lucky, maybe they're 30, 45 minutes is about as long as I've ever heard for an intro, a first interview kind of thing. So how much are you really gonna be able to impart of who you are, to a prospective employer? So you think about the things you can control, and Brother Robert hit on a bunch of them. One that I'll take one step up is the research ahead of time, coming in so that as you answer questions in an interview, you're demonstrating that you've done your homework. That some of the recent things that have happened at the company. Some of the factors that are out there in the media talking about the industry as challenges to growth or exciting, tailwinds to growth. And then also having a few pre-prepared questions. Most interviews, one of the last things that'll happen is, do you have any questions for me, right? The interviewer will kind of turn the table to the interviewee and say, well, you have any questions, for me about our company or anything?
I do that exact thing.
Right? I think it's like in the handbook, right? Why do we do that, right? Yeah. It's not because we actually give a crap about what's going to be asked, right? Because we're looking to hire. Well, it's a test. We want to see how does your brain work? What do you did you bother to take 10 minutes to think about one intelligent question? I don't care if it's about the best traffic pattern to get it. Did you do something? Now, you can take it up even a notch to ask a really smart question. And then the other thing you can do is completely tank yourself in that moment. You could ask, in the first interview, you could ask about the vacation policy. You could ask about how fast it takes to get a raise. Things that indicate that you're expecting things to be handed to you instead of you going to work hard for them. Fastest way to get, thank you, it's been really great. You'll hear from us, and you won't. Or
my favorite, worst question, can you please explain the work-life balance that you guys have at the
Absolutely.
firm? I mean, just an awful question.
Okay, well let's carry that forward a little bit because I love this. So there's this funny line of thinking that people who do things that we do have kicked around before, and it's this whole concept of the interviewer asking the interviewee, so tell me, what's your biggest weakness? And then the person would say, oh, my biggest weakness is, man, I work too hard. You know what I'm saying? I just pay attention to too many of the details, and you're trying to turn a positive into a negative just to fit that question, but still be impressive. What's the right answer to that question? If you're talking to these young brothers and they were to be asked, what is your biggest opportunity? Are you looking for like pure, honest candidness? Like, man, I got to tell you, I'm just a little bit lazy. You know what I'm saying? I got to tell you, is this a punctual priority job? Because I have a hard time showing up on time. What answer would you be looking for? What's the right way to respond that would not tank them, but still show that this is a good opportunity to hire this person?
You or me?
At least for me, it is being honest about what that is and showing forethought, because 80% interviews probably have the same question. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? But I think what separates, at least for me, apart is the person that says, look, here's my honest answer. I'm late. I'm one of those things that you just said, but here are the things that I do to try to address those. I have to deal with it, but I've given thought to it, and I'm conscious of it. And this is how I address those issues. That's something I'm working on as a human. We all have those weaknesses. And so that's just something that, for me, it is the counterbalance and how well they think about what do I do to address that to be a good employee.
Yeah,
very nice.
I agree. And I think you can also take it as a moment to, again, circle back to some message you wanted to get across. So it could be my favorite kind, the ones where I kind of smile to myself and say, ooh, this person knows what they're doing, is when they come in with a weakness that everyone their age should have, right? Well, I know as an entry level, I won't have the benefit of knowing the industry as well as some of my colleagues who have been here 3 to 5 years. So, I know that a weakness of mine right now in this particular role will be, inexperience and being green. But then you quickly move to how do you approach learning, right? The good news here, I'm not overly worried about this weakness because I've always, been someone who likes to learn things. I tend to have a short learning curve, and here's some of the things I do to go about my way of learning. And so what you did was you took something that started off as negative, you turned it to positive that way, but you did it in a way that wasn't lazy and too quick to answer.
I love that. Those are great responses. So we want to keep these podcasts really efficient, so we're going to keep this thing moving. I want to take an opportunity to add some levity to the conversation if there already wasn't enough. But I have a story I want to share, and I want you guys to start thinking about a funny story where you were interviewing somebody and it didn't go the way that the applicant was hoping it would go. And I'll start with mine, and it's actually a self-reflective story, because this moment I'm about to share was a growth moment for myself. It really helped me shape the way that I was running my business. But this is actually before I bought my first restaurant. I was a general manager of a McDonald's in Clovis, New Mexico. And I was working, and I had just taken over this restaurant. I was trying to accomplish, my goals, targets, and KPIs. And I had gone out to my lobby because I had an interview scheduled. And I sat down, and the interviewee came in, and they were wearing sweats. And then they sat down, and they put this box on the table. I said, what is that box? They said, oh, well, it's a court-mandated leash. I have an ankle bracelet. What? I said, what? And then this person asked me for a pen. And I could not believe I was in that situation. And I had to sit there and say to myself, what made this person even think that they could apply for a job here, that I would even give them a shot at hiring them? And at that very moment, I turned around, I looked over my shoulder at the team that I had behind the counter, and it became very clear to me why they thought they could work here. I had been hiring garbage. I had been making the wrong decisions as the employer. And you attract what you hire. And this is an interesting lesson for me, but certainly don't ever come into an interview with sweats on and ask for a pen, much less with a court-mandated leash on your ankle. You guys have anything you want to share along those lines?
I can jump in with one, and this is one that it was funny because it was a 180 right inside of the interview, because it started off, I thought it was a plus, and it turned very south quickly. So this was a role we were hiring for. I had expressed right in the beginning that we needed someone to start right away. This is a big need of ours. We had someone who left the company and got a new job, and that we really needed someone to hit the ground running. And in the course of the interview, it was going really well. And this individual then, I think it actually may have even been, maybe it was halfway through that I had asked, do you have any questions about the role, or something? And the individual started asking about our company's the continuing education, how do you invest in employees, which is a kind of a good question to ask. I like people who think of, lifelong learning, career journey, who are thinking about their next move. That's all positive. But it became very obvious through the next 5 minutes that this individual was only looking for a job to get someone. They were specifically asking about, do you pay for graduate school and to go back? And it became very obvious. This person was just looking for a company that would pay for their master's degree. And they had, and no interest at all in the actual current role. So it's like, there's something smart about thinking about your future and going ahead, but just be careful, because the person that's hiring you, there's an open job requisition for a reason. They need somebody to come in and do work.
Probably the recent one that I had, we had 15 applicants for one position we were hiring for, and so we did an initial screening by Zoom. And so if you do any initial Zoom interviews, be sure that you pull up your computer and watch your surroundings at what all is around you.
I have an idea where this is going.
So this lady had done the interview from her bedroom, and she had purple hair, which, for this role was not going to work. And in the bedroom, I didn't catch it, but the other person interviewing with me did. On the nightstand, there were some toys that were personal use toys.
Oh my gosh!
And after I got slipped a note saying, "Look at what's on her nightstand," and I could not keep a straight face for the rest of the interview. But
a good one.
So if you're doing Zoom interviews, and we did a bunch of them, most of the people set up like in a formal room. A couple of them were doing it from their house, which is fine, but they did it like from a kitchen, where the background setting was much better.
I love it. That is hilarious, man. So we're coming towards the end already, so we're going to start wrapping this up. We're going to do it with some advice around a specific topic, and that topic is most of our undergraduate brothers, hopefully the ones that will be listening to these podcasts, they're in college and they don't know what it's like in the real world quite yet. They don't have the experiences that we do. And if we could go back to our undergraduate careers, knowing what we know now, what skill sets can we take from Kappa Sigma, our experiences as an undergraduate as Kappa Sigma, that would help benefit us later in life? So if you, from the kind of mindset, if you're self-aware in the moment of what the best thing you can pull out of an experience would be, then you would focus down on that. Going back to being an undergraduate, what would you guys direct our undergraduates to pay attention to help drive their careers later in life?
I can start with one that I think should hopefully be pretty approachable for all brothers, whether you have a leadership role in the chapter or not. I think we talk a lot about skills that are gained from executive committee positions, committee chairs, but really this holds true for any brother, and that would be organizational skills. I think that's one of the things that you can set yourself apart in a junior level role in a company very quickly by being the kind of person that can take in large amounts of information, quickly organize them, understand a goal, set out a simple plan, and then track to it. And be someone who is doesn't wait to be asked for the update on the project that you're working on, but has a regular pattern and process for providing updates proactively to your manager, to your boss. That's something that you would be shocked, I think, out there, brothers, how few people actually practice that.
No, I love that answer. I always thought that, I was in the probably the fastest paced environment, career field being McDonald's with the drive-thrus. But most of your answers and commentary today, Brother McKenzie, have been about hitting the ground running and getting a speed to efficiency really quick. I love it, man.
Yeah, I would echo that too. I mean, that is a huge thing that distinguishes employees regardless of the position that you have, being able to do that. And it's not just being on your phone with checklists, it's actually doing things proactively. I would probably say the rolling up your sleeves and doing the hard work. And so many times people want to go to the top of the level of the kind of work that we do. They want to go to court. They want to go do those things. And you have to have the groundwork done first and learn how to do that. And that includes everything from walking down to the courthouse to file things to drafting the briefs, doing the research. And a lot of times people don't want to roll their sleeves up and do the hard work. And stay a little bit longer to catch the time that the managing partner has, or the partner you're working on a file with. They want to clock out at 5 o'clock, and that you don't get the learning experiences by treating it as a 8 to 5 clock in, clock out kind of thing. You have to go seek out those people, and sometimes that means you stay until 6 o'clock. Sometimes that means you come in at 7:30 to catch the people that can provide guidance and advice in your specific field.
Can I throw in one extra on that note? It's so important, the time and the ways you can demonstrate your hard work. My second job that I got, I was recruited. I was working at a big advertising public relations firm in New York. We had a partner in our investor relations practice who worked in the office kind of down the hall and past my desk. So every day he'd have to walk past my desk to get to his office. And he left the firm, joined another firm. I got a call from that firm asking if I would ever be interested in looking for a role. And I got there and I said, Gary, I'm just curious, what made you? I'd never worked on a project with this guy. He had never seen a single second of my work. He goes, man, you always seemed like you were in a good mood. You seemed productive. And I don't know, every time I came in the office, you were at your desk. And every time I left my office, you were still sitting at your desk. And that was my impression of you as a young professional. And so we figured, hey, we're looking for some people who give a shot to this interview, and so I gave a call. And it was just that simple act of, putting in some extra hours early in your career that gets you that next opportunity, and that second role is what really catapulted my career.
Well, and I also think, too, to hop on that is persistence. I've had several people that have interviewed with me. I wasn't hiring at the time, but they wanted some experience with that, and they kept following up. I said, well, we might look at this time. On that day, they followed up with me, and then they just kept doing it. And a couple of them, one of which is our star associates right now, he had bugged the living crap out of me every time I told him. And so I said, I'm going to hire this guy just because I can use that for good to go help me with those exact things we need to do. So persistence and following through with those things too are very important.
Organizational skills, speed to efficiency, a grind mindset, drive, persistence. I'll add in mine. I believe that more people have accumulated great wealth or affected great change in this world by being in positions of leadership more than anything else. I think the leadership aspect of your undergraduate experience is something that you can pull from almost nowhere else. So really dive into that aspect. This is Kappa Sigma's Second to None podcast. Thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.